Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions on a sunny but yet cold afternoon, 4 p.m. BST. With me today is a good friend of mine I've known for a while, Dan Little. This is the fourth installment of Life After Exit. Dan has exited two brands. I got the copy wrong. I said 2 7-figure brands that you exited. One was 7, one was 6. But do you want to let people know what you've been up to this week whilst I share to the groups?
Yeah, this week, well, the weather here is naff, mate. I'm in Sweden and it's trucking down with rain outside.
Yeah.
But this week, been focusing on, we're doing a big marketing drive with the new SaaS business we're doing. We've been doing a course all around paid Facebook traffic and how to build a successful funnel for SaaS.
Yeah.
So been focusing on that. Also got a couple of new integrations launching part of the tool. So we've been getting those into beta. So it's been full action stations this week. And then on top of that, I've been renovating my new house, building a kitchen on the weekends. So
excellent. I see some photos on Facebook with that.
Have you? All right.
Yeah, weren't you doing some like an outhouse garden stuff as well about a month ago?
As well, yeah. A couple of months ago, yeah, we built a pool, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So you're back in Sweden. You're originally from Tyneside, right?
Yeah, Newcastle.
Yeah. So, but you're back in Sweden. I know since I've known you, you've been back and forth. But there was a time you're back in the UK. Your partner's from Sweden, and this is where you mainly reside. Yeah.
Yeah. So my wife's Swedish, and we've been back and forward between the two. We moved back to Sweden in January this year.
Cool. And so, context for the story. Let's start when you started on Amazon. First couple of things in terms of how you got going, and then we can build into the post-exit stuff as well. So take me back in time. What year was 2015?
I think it was 2015. Yeah, I think it was August 2015, if I remember when the company was formed. Basically, I was working as a drug rep, selling medicines to doctors. Had a nice flashy car, had a decent salary, but it just wasn't really like I had a bit of entrepreneurial spirit in me from when I was in school, and I sort of had a little eBay account on the side, and I'd never really like kicked that. And so I thought I was going to do it again. One of my friends was doing a really successful, he was making like phone cases, and he was selling like loads and loads on eBay and on Amazon. And he had he'd opened his own little shop in town. And I just thought, I reckon I could probably do something like this. So I sat down with him for like a couple of hours, and he talked us through it. And he was like, I wouldn't even bother with eBay. I would just go straight to Amazon and do this new thing called private label. Yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. So I had a look into that, Googled around. Obviously, one of the first things that came up was Amazing Seller Machine. And at the time, it was like the doors are closed and it's probably might not even open again. And then I did a bit more looking into it, and I was like, bloody hell, it's like $5,000 or something like that. I was like, I can't really do that. So then I did the usual where I like Googled around, found a few YouTube videos, and everything always came back to this Amazing Seller Machine about how good it was. It was like a roadmap to success and all that. When doors did open and I was on the email list, I obviously started getting bombarded. And she went for it. And I remember I stayed up for one of the webinars and subscribed at that night. And then I went up to bed and told my wife, and I was like, I've just bought a course for $5,000. And she was like, what?
Yeah.
And then we look back at that now and we're laughing things, that decision was like the thing that started our lives in the right direction. So that's how it all started, basically, is that did Amazing Seller Machine 6 and started an Amazon business, basically put the first order on a credit card. And that was like £750 for some like really small product. And that was basically a standalone product for that brand. And that was the first brand that I actually sold. And I sold that about 18 months after building it up. So it had like a couple of different color variations, but it was still just one product.
Right. Okay. So was that the 7 or the 6-figure you sold off?
The 6-figure one, yeah.
Yeah.
That was about 18 months. And then I'd already approached like a family friend who was a rich guy who lived in my mom's street and said like what I'd been doing. And he was sort of like had a keen eye on it, good investor. And he was like, well, if you ever need a partner to like put some money in and just sit on the side and like grow quicker, I know you're using credit cards and that at the minute, but if you need any more money, then let us know. And I was like, yep, no bother. As soon as I sold this business, I approached him and was like, right, okay, well, can you lend me some money so that I can then buy some of this new product, which is bigger and heavier, and I think it'll be harder for other people to enter the market. And that's how the second brand started.
So do you mind if we pick these brands down? So with the first one, 18 months, what we're trying to do as part of the show is that pre-exit. Can you walk us through, you got to 18 months and then you decided to sell. Can we talk some of the pain points, where you went, what kind of consultants that you use? Because people use different paths to get to the exit. So how did it work for you on the timeline?
Yeah, so I think at the time I was listening to like various podcasts as you do, and I think one of them was I can't even remember what it was called now.
Probably one of Scott's or something. Yeah.
NBA All Stars, I think it
Oh
was.
yes, yeah, Matt. I can't remember his
Yeah,
surname. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but he was called Matt, yeah.
yeah.
And he was talking about the time about how he was going through the process of potentially looking to sell his business, and I was like, maybe I should sell my business. I'm a typical person, like get an idea and then just follow it like that.
Yeah.
Like don't really think it through too much. And I thought, I'm going to work this out, and so I put it into a spreadsheet, and I thought, right, okay, well, I'm pulling X amount of money out of the business at the minute each month, and that allows me to continue growing it and actually get some money out at the same time. And if I sell it and take into account like entrepreneurs relief, then I'm going to get this, which means that I would have to run the business for X many years at the current rate of like bringing the money in with growth built in. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to continue growing it for like another 4 years to get the same money out. Let's just get rid of it and start it again. And like, let's make that the new thing that I build them up, sell them, and then build them up and sell them. That was the thing at that point. And so when it was coming towards that point at 18 months, and I thought this is a good point because it's still like on an upward trajectory. I've done the European marketplaces, but I haven't hit the US. So it would be probably a good opportunity for the buyer to then like open up into the US marketplace. And so I looked at the various different people, and there was like the FBA broker and Empire Flippers. And Empire Flippers seemed to have like a pretty good website. And I thought, well, if I was looking for a website, I think this looks pretty decent. So I approached them, and they put us through their funnel, I guess, and then ended up like within 2 months the business was sold. So
2 months. Okay, so that's good.
quick,
So how was the process for you? Did you have to backpedal on the restructure of the business? Obviously, provide lots of information, shoe size, and God knows what. What was the paperwork like getting that prepared to sell?
Well, it certainly opened my eyes to like how to do accounting properly, which obviously we'll come on to later with the SaaS tool that I've set up. But I'm already quite a smart guy in terms of maths and stuff like that. And I had all my spreadsheets, and I had a zero. Actually, I think I had a cash flow account at the time, but I had everything like really nicely mapped out. And when I approached Empire Flippers, they actually said that. They said, this is pretty well mapped out, although we use a standardized spreadsheet. So would you mind just transferring everything across the spreadsheet? Did that, took like, I don't know, a couple of days to do. And then they literally just verified everything, like screenshots of the Amazon account, and logged in and checked a few things. And then like, yep, it's all approved, put it on the marketplace, and almost immediately started to get like traction of people ringing up. I think it was like at that price point, because the first one was like, I don't know, it was sub $1 million. I can't remember how much it was. Maybe sub 500. I can't exactly remember. And it was basically like within a few days, people were getting in touch, and I must have spoken to, I don't know, 6 or 7 different potential buyers. And I started to get a feel for what sort of questions they were asking. So I was like basically having them prepared as like decent answers. And then there was 2 people who came along at the same time who were both interested. And I still think to this day is this why it sold so quickly, is because they almost had a little battle against themselves. And I think Empire Flippers probably did a good little job in the background of like playing them off each other. Like, oh, we've actually got an offer on the table from this other guy. So if you want to speak to him, you're going to have to be a real good confirmed offer. And he was like, yeah, let's get in and have a chat. And the actual guy who came in last was the guy who bought it. So,
and so walk me through the last 72 hours of the deal. What was your feeling like there? Stressed? Did you have any bait and switch going on?
I was dead excited, to be honest, because I could feel it like getting towards the line, and I could just, I was just imagining the money sort of thing. And I thought that it's getting really close now. And if I pull this off, then this proves to me there is something in this that I can do this again, that I can basically build another business up. And this time I'll be able to do it quicker because I've learned loads of stuff from the first one. And in 12 months' time, I might be able to flip this one even more.
So for clarity, this was one product with multiple variations, right?
Yeah, one product with like 6 or 7 different colors, basically.
Right. Okay. And is it still going today? Have you checked in to see how it's doing?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
As well, yeah.
And when you first looked at your bank account, when it cleared,
when the money came in, so I think I got 50% up front and then 50% after 30 days, which when I sold the second one, I was like, that was a really good deal, the first one.
Yeah.
And so when the money went in the bank account, I think I took a screenshot. I've probably still got it on my phone at somewhere, like as like a memory. I should have framed it on the wall, really, I suppose.
So what did you do to celebrate that moment?
To celebrate that, I think, do you know what? It's funny because all along I've said to my wife as well that really the only thing that I'm ever striving for is to be able to go out for food and just go to a restaurant and pick the food without first of all looking on the right hand side of the menu where all the prices are.
Yeah.
And that, like, I'm a humble kind of guy, so I never really wanted like loads of like nice luxury items. I just wanted to be able to go out for food and not have to first of all look at the prices. So we probably went out for food and like had a nice steak or something like that.
Yeah.
Don't think I bought a car that time, but I do like my cars. So I think I bought a car the second business, but I didn't buy one for the first one. No.
Yeah.
I think we'll put some money into like a house or something like that.
Yeah. So we'll talk about if you've done any investments a bit later. So you sold that business. What was next? Obviously, there's a second brand. What did you do then? What was the early days of setup, etc.?
Yeah, so the second time, as I said, it was like I was always in it to build it up and sell it.
Yeah.
And I think I took on this partner who was a family friend who invested, like, at the time, like, I thought it was a lot of money, but it turns out it wasn't really lots in terms of the turnover. So he put some cash in, and then he actually became more and more involved in the business the more successful it started to become, because he started off as like a silent partner on the side and had like he's in his early 50s, so he's not exactly like technology friendly era, so to speak. And so there was a lot of like, he didn't really understand what was going on. And I was like throwing money at Facebook traffic, and he kept saying, but we're not making money at this. We're not like making any profit. And I was like, I know, but the thing is that it's still like, that's how you build it up. And he was like, all right, okay, I'll trust you. And then it started to like turn a corner. And then he was like, let's put more money into Facebook. It's mint. And I was like, okay. Yeah. So he took on more and more. Like, then I gave him a few jobs. Like he did the stock management, and he actually really enjoyed that because he had another business that he did sort of that type of thing. And I was like, happy days, because I hated that. So that was like a weight off my shoulders, and he did it a billion times better. And he was like a mass perfectionist as well. So like everything was always well managed. And that basically grew to where we didn't just have one brand, but that we had a fitness brand, beauty brand, and an outdoor brand sort of thing.
Okay, so you all from managing the same account, or did you?
Yeah, that was all from the same account, yeah. And that was actually running at that time. I decided that we were also going to try the US, so I'd started where we had a European seller account and a United States or a North American seller account, and we're doing a mixture of the products between the two because some of the products fit the UK market and didn't fit the US, and vice versa. So we had sort of 9 or 10 products at the peak. But with variations as well. So there's probably like 25, 30 SKUs across the different markets.
Was that part of your plan as well? Is instead of having like 30 products, you went in on the variations. You chose the products that you want, and then you were cross and upselling and using the cheaper prices to market, you know,
not necessarily cross-selling, but because I hated stock management, and I thought that it was so complicated to even just manage one product that I had, which was just like 7 different colors. I thought, you know what, I don't really want to have like loads of different suppliers and like deal with loads of different people. So I had like 3 of my products actually came from the same supplier, and I had a good few variations. But the other reason, which was a benefit, is because if you have a product that like say has 2 colors and 2 sizes of each color, then you've automatically got a barrier to entry for your competition, because if they're going to come and compete with you, they also have to have those. And it's not just a case of they can test the water with, like, say you've got, I don't know, a garlic press, the usual example, and they can test the water by sending 500 across of their garlic press, and all of a sudden they're competing with you. Whereas
they're not, because you haven't got the options available.
You have clothing like t-shirts, and you've got like a blue one and a red one, and then small, medium, large. You've now got 6 items, and if they want to compete with you, then they have to have a guess as to which one's the best seller and what size sells best. And like, it's a lot more barrier to entry. So I went down that route, and I also went down the route of going for items that were literally on the borderline of being oversized, so that if someone else came along and got it wrong, they would be into oversize, and then they're getting hammered on the FBA fees. So that was my sort of tactic for the second business, to go like heavier, larger, and more variations. And that seemed to work because I could basically corner the market and get first on all the main keywords, get like Amazon bestseller badge and like Amazon's choice and all that, and then just flood the waters. Yeah,
and that second brand was in the US, so it became a bit more attractive when it comes to selling as well, which you've done for 7 figures. So how long were you running that brand for, the second one?
That one was,
or the 3 brands under the same account. Sorry.
Yeah. So that one was from 2016, and I sold it in 2018. So like 2 years. Wasn't long either. 2 years and a few months, maybe 2 years and 3 months, something like that. But yeah, so I think it was a bit more attractive to the buyer. They were basically a US company which had already got a US account and they had a UK account which was registered for VAT. But I was pan VAT registered, so I had the 7 VAT registrations from around Europe, and they wanted to use my business and buy the entity, which was happy days for me, to be able to like basically have a vehicle to supply the EU without having to go through all the pan EU, because that was a bit of a nightmare. And I like really bigged that up during the sale process because it was.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit before we get into selling that. Where did the point come in? Like you would have basically taught me about ranking and using Facebook ads and the storefront URL and stuff. I know it was already in the industry, but you sat down and showed me, and it was like rocket fuel at one point. Can you talk us through the stories? Like you literally had hit the nail every time, didn't you? It was just like 7 days, boom, ranking. And then you went on a bit of a barren streak. Do you want to give a better backstory there?
Yeah, so again, I went through Amazing Seller Machine, and then I was in the sort of amazing community, and they came out with a webinar, like a really important webinar, but they were going to charge for it, and it was like $150, and everyone else was like, no, I'll just wait until afterwards. And I thought, you know what, if they're charging for it, it must be some seriously good information. And like at that point, you're spending so much money on tools and that $150 is really
nothing. Yeah.
I just chucked it in and went on the webinar, and then they walked you through this whole process of using the storefront URL and using coupons that were generated through Facebook automatically for your users, and basically doing like huge discounts through the storefront URL to try and boost the rankings. And I tried it on a product that we're launching, and I was like, it just absolutely blew my mind. It was like 3 days and we're on page 1. 5 days were in the top 4, and 7 days and we're in number 1 position, and we still didn't even have any reviews. And I was like, how does this even work? So I was like, right, okay, now we've found a formula to be able to launch products. Let's pull forward all the launches, and let's just like not take any money out of the business. Let's pump all the money into buying this new inventory, and let's hit the fire while it's hot, so to speak, because all these things come and go, and I knew it would. And that's exactly what did happen. We got like built up loads of launches, and I used to like start with a small amount of inventory and then build them up gradually. And I just went for like, right, okay, if I'm going to do it well, it's going to get to this point. So in 3 months, I'll be selling this. So I'm going to order 3 months worth of stock. And I remember the product that I like failed on basically was in the fitness niche, and I ordered something like 15,000 units, knowing that if I got it right, that's what it would get to on a basically like a monthly basis. And it never ever got there. And I remember that I was like still flogging this stock for like probably a whole year at like a massive loss on every unit to try and just get rid of it. And it was a massive down heart. And I remember I spoke to you and was like, I'm out. Like, I'm not going to do this
done
anymore. I'm sick. This is like completely knocked us for 6, and I do not want to be an Amazon seller anymore.
Yeah.
And I never really launched I did launch a couple of products after that, but I never really trusted it anymore. And it sort of really knocked us, to be honest.
Yeah. So how did you go from that and then able to get the multiples in the sale? Was it because obviously you sold them 3 brands under that same account?
Yeah.
That the sale came after that experiment.
It did.
And with due diligence and stuff, how did you talk that one off?
Learn from the first one, mate. Just be open up front straight away and just say, listen, obviously, as you know, as an Amazon seller already, you must understand that product launches come and go. We've obviously had like probably 9 out of 10 have been successful. We've had this one which has gone really badly, which in hindsight, what we learned is X, Y, and Z. What we're going to do as a goodwill gesture is we're just going to completely remove that from the P&L. And that actually worked in our favor anyway, because it basically removed a huge loss from the P&L.
Yeah.
So,
and
it also meant that basically the inventory that was left over of that product, they just got for free. So they could like basically, if they sold that at like even, I don't know, half the price of what the market was at.
Yeah, they got it for free anyway.
Yeah. Exactly. So they were going to make like money on that. So they were like, yeah, that seems fair enough. And I think it's just a case of being open and honest. People know that businesses are not just like success after success after success. There's always going to be something that's like fell over. Yeah. And it's just unfortunate that was like, it's just at the wrong time, so to speak.
So what other learnings, like obviously being honest and upfront is key. What was the other things that you took from the first sale that helped you with the sale of the second business?
like I was saying, super squeaky clean accounts. So like
Hmm.
what I learned from the first one was that if you have all your accounts in order, then when it comes to due diligence and when it comes to talking through your figures with the buyer, if you know your stuff, then it's going to come across like and represent that you are like a true business person and that you are at it to basically chase the bottom line.
Yeah.
And so having accounts where you can like say, this is how much turnover we've had, and this is how much profit we've made, and these are the expenses we've had, and this year we've cut back on these things because they weren't actually generating us any extra income, X, Y, and Z. Then I think that it goes to reinforce that this is going to be a successful opportunity to them to take over. So whereas if your books are all over the place and it's like you don't really know, like, yeah, I think I'm making like 25% margin on my product, but then when you factor in like Amazon storage fees and advertising costs and all the other expenses that you're spending on tools and you're paying VAs and all the samples that you bought, like all that factors in, and it's actually, oh, well, actually, no, I only make 15% margin on them. And all of a sudden it's a completely different opportunity to them.
Yeah.
So it's a case of, that would be my biggest tip really, is like have clean accounts and make sure that you understand them as well and you can talk through them. Like I would maybe I practiced a couple of times with like, because I'm pretty smart, but I still practiced with like my wife and like I rang my mom and said like, can I just talk you through what our figures look like and does it make sense to you?
So how long did it take to put that deal together? Obviously the other one was 8 weeks, but being one product and multiple variations, there's it's a bit more focus. But this time round it's 3 brands.
Yeah.
And then obviously you had that one, that product that went sideways, unfortunately. How long did it take you to put that one together, the deal?
Yes, that one wasn't ages either, but it was certainly a lot longer before we started to get like the traction. So I think it went live on the marketplace and I was expecting to like be booked with calls for like the next few days and then nothing really happened. And then I think it sat on the marketplace for probably 2 or 3 weeks before we started to get anybody like come and poke the tires, so to speak. And I think we got like a couple of people who came in who like I could just tell straight off that they weren't really that interested and they were just sort of poking around. And then this guy came along, this new American company came along, and basically like I could just immediately tell that they were interested. And so we got off really well, and like we both liked that were like straight to the point and like really honest with each other. And he just said, listen, I've already got an Amazon brand and we run it pretty successfully in the US. We've just branched out into the UK and we're sort of struggling with VAT and we really want to branch out into the European marketplace and expand there. But we're not really up to the idea of registering for loads of different VAT. And so then I was like, mental note of all these things. I was like, customer needs analysis, going back to my days of selling drugs to doctors.
To doctors, not on the street.
Just be careful. And I was like sort of jotting notes down on the side of me, and then I was like, well, you mentioned this and you mentioned that, and this is obviously, it works really well with our business. And I just sold it, mate. Like you can sell products, you can sell a business. It's the same thing. Yeah.
And then that check was larger, I take it, being it was a 7-figure business.
Yeah, that was 7 figures. Obviously, I then had to share that with my
partner.
Who I think in my I don't know. It's hard to judge because he took 50% of the company for his relatively small investment up front, was a silent partner, then took on more and more roles of like stock management and stuff. But I still look back and think, you know, I wish that I had just taken a loan from him and paid him back the loan, and then I would have had 100%. But I don't know. I might not have got to the size I got because he gave a lot of good advice along the way, and he was in and out of China with his other business, so he like visited with suppliers, and that probably like increased relationships and helped with to negotiate.
Well, sometimes people bring value that's not grind. You know, some people bring value to something where I think it's a misnomer where people look at something and go, but you're not doing a 40 or 60-hour week. But some of the other stuff can be priceless, like injection of money. Like you said, advice to avoid mistakes, taking on positions, the jobs that you hated, not hated, but you disliked heavily. So,
but what we did was we basically had a 50% share structure, but then I took a salary from the business and he didn't. And that basically increased as the profits increased. It was like, I took 50% of the profits was my salary, and then the rest went into the business, sort of thing.
So, so you still earned out of it, like you had an adjustment. Yeah.
It was just like it was structured 50-50, I think, because he didn't want to not have control, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it just meant that when we did eventually sell it, which we always knew it was coming, and I think he probably thought about it more than me, that he got 50%. So he was happy as well.
Good. And so what happened there? Obviously, we discussed earlier on, it kind of not hit you hard, but you'd had a real good run, and then you had that that product where the ranking thing didn't work, and it's like, right, don't want to be an Amazon seller anymore, because like you've gone twice now. A lot of people, even with the 4 guys that have exited Databril, like for their own business that we manage their PPC, 3 of them are coming back. You know, they're going again with it. But you're at the game now on that side. You've decided, right, I'm not doing another Amazon business.
Yeah, I think it was sort of twofold. Like that sort of knocked my confidence of being able to launch products again, and I just thought the more and more I thought about the Amazon marketplace, it is a bit risky. And like I exited obviously 2 years ago, and that was when like suspensions were rife and everyone was getting suspended left, right, and center. I had a couple of products that were like taken off, and then managed to get them back on through appeals. And then since the business is sold, they've been taken off again, and then they've got them back on through appeals. But like I always had that sort of hanging over my head, and my wife doesn't work, and sort of like worked on the business but didn't have a salary coming in, so it was like I was the breadwinner and I was taking money out every month, but we were spending it as fast as we were making it on like loads of new things and that, and so it was never like we had the security behind us. And I just thought, right, if I sell this, and then I don't really want to be an Amazon seller anymore, but I like the space, and I like the like mathematical side of it, and I quite like having clean accounts, and probably most people don't like spending an hour every month like reconciling that stuff off, but I thought that was quite fun, to be honest. So I'm like a bit,
you know, at a party, Dan. Yeah, you know, at a party.
I did my work experience back in the days, and like an accountancy firm, and that was my job that I was lined up to be. But then obviously traveling the world, took to school instead. So
go on.
Sorry, no, go on.
No, you finish, and then I was going to go to the comments because there's some questions in there for you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so then I decided that a SaaS within Amazon would probably be the way that I would want to go. And Pete, who you know as well, Pete Moran, he was one of my competitors, actually. And funny story, we actually met through being competitors on the same product. And then we realized we were about to launch exactly the same product at exactly the same time. So we were sort of in the same niche, and we sort of got to know each other. And then we always joked about like, oh, we should set up a business one day. We could probably do something really good. And he's a software developer, and obviously I'm a keen entrepreneur into marketing and all that. So it just made sense to give it a go. And there that we thought, you know, they're not doing the greatest job. They're very expensive for what they do, and so we want to try and do a better job and like focus down onto the UK marketplace, which is undernourished. And that's what.
I'll go to the comments and then we can talk about the software, actually. Wellington says, good morning, guys. Then when did you know it was time to sell your business? So retrospectively, he asked this question earlier on. So when was the defining moment you said, right, okay, now it's time to sell?
I think for me, it's when you get bored of it almost. When you're like, when you get to the point where it's still on an upward trajectory, but you know you're sort of like losing interest a little bit, and it's going to tail out, and then it'll go down. And at that point, you'll not get anything for it because nobody wants to buy a business that's going downhill. Yeah. And at the point where it's still going up, and you've still got like a couple of products that could launch in your like hot product list sort of thing, then it's ripe for a buyer. It's like low hanging fruit for them to like take over, launch the new products that you had planned, crack on. So yeah, when you're getting a little bit bored and when you're like not as motivated by running it anymore would be my biggest thing. Yeah.
Facebook user says you can see which sells the best. Check the review total for which variation. You know, you mentioned market entry that, you know, you launch with multiple variations. So he's got a point there in terms you can extrapolate by the amount of reviews. Right. Yeah,
all sorts of things you can do. I just meant it's more of a barrier to entry. That if
because the costs as well. If you've got the disposable cash for inventory. Side B says, "Why chaps?" Bryant says, "What aggregators do you recommend? Thrasio type companies looking to buy businesses."
I don't know what aggregators are, to be honest.
Brian, ask that question again. By you mean aggregators? Thrasio actually buy companies; they roll them up into their business. So I'm not sure. What an aggregator is, but maybe he means is that they go along and aggregate and buy loads of businesses and rolls that. That might be.
They buy them, put them into a bigger company with a view to float them eventually, don't they? And then they get like they buy them.
Yeah, and sell them I've not heard it described that way. So if you want to confirm that, that's cool. Saibi says, what sort of fees do agents take for handling those deals?
So I think the first one, 15%, because it was sub $1 million. The second one, because it was over $1 million, and I think it was over $1 million basically. And I think that one was 12%. I think if you get over 5 million, it drops down to 10% with Empire Flippers at least. Well, that's what when I sold it, they'll probably be able to tell you better than I can.
Yeah. Cool. So let's go back to the software. Like, I know we kind of dashed over it quickly, but you spotted a gap in the market. There is the market leader was a lot more expensive. So you come in. Do you want to explain exactly how it all works?
Yeah, so basically we take the Amazon Seller Central sales and like tax data, and we integrate with Xero and QuickBooks.
Yeah.
So back to the talking about clean books and all that, that's where this thought always was there in the background, was that I was using other tools that were out there that were dead expensive and they didn't really do what I wanted them to do. And I had to do a little bit of manual work every month for the PAN EU, especially, and like for UK VAT. And all these tools are made in like the US or in New Zealand, and they never really cater for the UK market. So I jokingly said to Pete, like, to be honest, I reckon we could do a better job of this, and we could really focus it down to be like a UK specific integration between Amazon sales and different accountancy packages. And he was like, no, I'm not really sure. And then it came up again in conversation like a couple of months later, and I was like, no, I really think we should do it now. Like, we'll both put like a couple of 10 grand in or something, and we'll like develop it out, and we'll get it to the point where at least we can like use it like on our businesses that we've sold. We can like get them to test it out, sort of thing, because I was still consultant for the business that I sold, still do. And then we can take it from there, and basically agreed eventually, and it like took off like a rocket, mate, because as I said, the market leader was like a complete monopoly on the market, and like nobody wanted to pay their prices, but they were forced to. And then they didn't really have at that time a great sort of UK integration side of things for like UK VAT and PAN EU VAT. Obviously, they've upgraded as we've come in as well, but I still feel like we have a pretty good offering for UK sellers, basically.
Cool. Brian's come back. Yeah, so it's a terminology I wasn't aware of. Aggregators are companies like Thrasio that buy companies within 2 months and are Amazon FBA businesses. You learn something new every day. So thank you for that, Brian. So how long, the software's been up and running for a while. Do you have any other investments? So that obviously is something, because a lot of the people we speak to on the show is the weirdest thing that they have is when they exit the business and then they start to do investments like property and stuff. There's no steady wage coming in. But with the software business, it's a lot easier because you haven't got inventory and stuff like that. As long as you've got users and the numbers work, that gives you an opportunity to draw out a steady income, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah.
So what other investments do you have? Did you buy any properties or anything?
I watched Ben Leonard's one of this, and he gave a much like better answer than what I'm about to give, because to be completely honest, I didn't really make any investments. Like we basically like went on better holidays and bought nice cars and like upgraded the size of our house and spoiled our children basically. And we still have money left in the bank and that, but to be completely honest, I think most of my money sits in the National Savings and Investments 1% account. I don't make much money on it at all. But that's because I don't really like, I'm an 80-20 guy. If I spend loads of time on that, I'm just going to lose it. I spend time on Bitcoin and lost like, I'm not telling you because my wife's probably listening. I lost money basically. And I just thought, you know what? I'm not an investments guy. I'm going to focus on the stuff that I'm good at and let my money just sit. Like, so I make more money on like growing my new business than I would ever in probably investing in shares.
Yeah. So what's the plan for the future? You got the software that's under Manners now. You've got a good user base there. Are you expanding out on the software and doing more SaaS businesses, or is there other things you'd like to do in the future?
Yeah, so basically my income streams at the moment are, I still get money from the consultancy because the business that I sold most recently, the bigger one, they basically, I had an agreement with them, like a profit share. So I sold all my shares in the business, and then I have a profit share agreement based on me still working for them. So I do that. And then I also have an income stream from the software business, which is going really well. It's been going for like 18 months. It's called Link My Books, by the way, just so I can give a little plug there.
Little plug there,
And that's currently, we do Amazon to Xero and QuickBooks, but we're just about to launch eBay managed payments, which is like a big cry for in the marketplace, because eBay's recently moved across from like where everyone had their own PayPal account, and now they're doing like an Amazon style model where eBay holds all the payments, and then once every day or once every week they basically pay you out for your sales minus your fees from eBay. So it's like a massive cry out in the marketplace. We were like right on it. So that's currently in beta. We've got like probably 15 users that are on the beta program. You can join that on the website. once that's ready in probably the next 2 or 3 weeks, that will be rolled out as a public app, and it'll just be free for the first 3 months, just while we're ironing out the bugs and stuff. And then straight after that, we've got Shopify coming. So Shopify integration in the same sort of manner. So that's the whole idea behind Link My Books, is that we're linking different tools, different sales channels to your books, like Xero and QuickBooks.
Sounds good. Cool. Let's leave that there. So thanks for coming in. I'm going to try and get Pete on, but he's in Australia. So it's like 2:00 in the morning, and you know how grumpy he can be. So I'm going to try and get him on and cover him as well. I mean, because I met you through Pete, wasn't it? So Pete introduced me to you.
I met him, and then he said, I'm in a group of sellers who are based in London. I was living in Newcastle at the time, and he said, but if you wanted to, I could introduce you. And then he introduced me to you. We got on quite well. I joined your little private group that you've got. And then I came along to a couple of your meetings down in London, didn't I? I flew in from Sweden once, and I came down from Newcastle.
Yeah, we done that round table thing, didn't we? You come in from Sweden. Yeah.
My business partner came to one of them as well. Can you remember?
That's right. Yeah, this is going to say. I remember him being there. It was one of them. It was the one in Piccadilly, wasn't it? When we went to the, I'm trying to think of the venue.
It was upstairs. It
was in the comedy club. We were at the upstairs, didn't we? We took over the upstairs. So cool. Cool. If people want to reach you and have questions, is there an email or a place to go?
Yeah, Daniel@linkmybooks.com.
Sounds good. Guys, thanks for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to vote at sellerpoll.com, brought to you by Foresio. I'll be back here 4 p.m. BST tomorrow. Take care of yourself and take care of your family. I'll see you then.
Thanks, Danny.